Welcome to Mind Yourself, a podcast sharing real life stories from real people, alongside conversations about mental health and emotional well-being. Listener discretion is advised, as this episode may include themes some listeners may find distressing. Wherever you're joining us from, whether you're walking, driving, or taking a quiet moment for yourself, you're very welcome here. Let's get started.
Emma Lennon, you are very welcome here to the Mind Yourself podcast here at Four Swans. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Emma, who are you and what do you do?
I am a mother of daughters, solo parenting, wearer of many, many hats. I really don't actually know how to describe myself. That's terrible. But yeah, my main way, I suppose I'd describe myself is that I'm a mother of daughters, specifically neurodivergent daughters, and I've the identical triplets that just turned 6. So I've been a mum for 16 years. My eldest daughter is 16, and the trippies are 6.
6 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
What are their names, Emma?
So my eldest daughter is Casey, and then I have the triplets who are Callie, Quinn and Minnie.
So life is busy.
Chaos.
And you work as well as being a mum. You do lots of different things, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I wear many hats. I am first and foremost a mum. And I've recently gone back to work as a hairdresser, which I took a long break from because I had my own salon. And then I found out I was pregnant on the triplets, and that was in lockdown. So yeah, I went only back to behind the chair recently. I had previously gone back to college before that, so I could support my family. I did social media production, podcast production, and I have special interest in marketing. So I was able to, I suppose, create my own business and support my family and work around everybody's schedule. And then, as well as that, I'm just after launching my own bridal business with a friend of mine. I did that in conjunction with the salon that I work in, so we will be the dedicated bridal team.
Well done.
Yeah.
And Emma, you mentioned your triplet pregnancy, which would be considered a high-risk pregnancy, and experiencing that during lockdown must have been added extra challenge.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, what that was like for you?
It was really difficult. Talking about it now, reflecting back, looking at it, I pushed through an awful lot of my own feelings to make everybody else feel comfortable. With the pregnancy being such a high-risk pregnancy, it meant that I was scanned very regularly. There was an awful lot of talk, negative talk, I suppose that you'd say, about the development of the babies. I was attending Drogheda. I've had a fantastic experience up in the Lord's Hospital in Drogheda and in the Rotunda. I suppose I had to go to the Rotunda, and that was the first experience I kind of had, like, of, I don't want to be dramatic and say trauma or traumatic, but it was the first time that I realised that I had to mind everybody else except myself. I know that's a bit contradictory when I'm carrying 3 babies and I'm trying to do my best by them to get them to the world safely, but there was so much fear and panic around me. I felt like I had to nearly placate everybody else around me. So when I went to the Rotunda for the very first appointment, that was the first experience I had of doing it alone, and that was the trajectory I was going to go on for the duration of the pregnancy. My partner, the girl's dad, my partner of the time, I should add, I'm a solo parent, as I mentioned, but he was refused at the door of the Rotunda, like he was going to a nightclub. It was awful. It was kind of like, not today, mate, you're not getting in. And I was like completely shook at that time. I and everybody else was as well. And when I seen everybody else's reaction, when I say everybody else, I'm talking about the girl's dad, and his mum was actually with us at the time. And we were all very confused, like we didn't know what was going on, and it was supposed to be a very special time to be able to go in and share that experience. But I realised this was it now. I was doing it on my own, and it was, I suppose I popped that into a little box, and that was the start of me pushing through. And to this day, I don't think I've stopped pushing through. It's
Can
just
you
something.
remember what it was like finding out that moment that it wasn't just one baby and not just 2 babies, but 3 babies?
I think the expectation of other people would be that it was a magical moment and that it was wonderful news to receive and everything. But if I'm going to be very honest with you, it's not what I wanted. And it's hard for me to say that because it's the biggest blessing I've ever received in my life. I truly believe, and I've said it many times, that the girls were sent to me. I was always supposed to have the girls, all of my girls. But when I'm speaking about the triplets are a miracle, you know, and I think we have to start with that. But I remember having the ultrasound done, and it was my dream to have twins. I would have loved, and I was a mobile hairdresser for a while. And one of my clients had identical twins, and I just thought that this was like, oh my God, this was brilliant. Like when I was trying for a baby, which was for a couple of years, I really, really wanted to fall pregnant with twins, and there was twins in my family. And when I got to the booking appointment, and the lady asked me, like, what's the sickness like and how are you feeling and whatever. And I was saying, yeah, grand, like, as I didn't have any like bad morning sickness or anything like that. And I was expressing to her how much I really would have loved to have twins. And she was kind of saying, it doesn't sound like it, does it? You know, you don't really have the symptoms maybe of what a twin pregnancy would be. So it was a complete shock to the system when I had the ultrasound and the sonographer said, oh, there's one little beautiful cell. Oh, there's 2 beautiful cells. There's 3 beautiful cells. And like I can actually feel the feeling. It was like the wind taking out your sails completely. Like I didn't know what to think. I didn't know. I was in a state of shock. I would say like my legs were moving independently from my body. I remember looking down and my body was shaking, but I wasn't moving. My brain wasn't telling my body to move. It was just happening. The girl's dad was, I can only describe as hysterical. Like a hyena, like he dropped to his knees. And now the lady, the sonographer, was like, kind of calm down, don't get ahead of yourself there, because she's saying something that was like something that maybe wasn't going to be great. She thought she's saying nuchal falls, what would have been an indicator of maybe something like Down syndrome. But very closely monitored, and it turned out not to be the case. And I really had a good pregnancy. I will say though, it was a conversation with my daughter that got me into like a really strong mindset to get through everything during the pregnancy, because one of her friends had an experience in their family with a death of a baby. And she was very worried about this because she was a part of hearing about high risk. And what does that mean, you know?
What age was she then, Emma?
She was only 10. She went 10, yeah. She would have probably been 9 actually at that time, because they were born in May and Casey is June. I'm not good at maths. Yeah. But I was having a conversation with her one day and she was very worried, and I was trying to ease her worry. And I said, look, this is a miracle. I said, and we get to experience it all together. It's not just me going through it. You know, we're doing it all together, and we'll greet every day as it comes, and we can only do things day by day. And I was telling her that, but I was actually telling myself that, you know, and that is something that I just adopted through the whole pregnancy. I didn't feel worried. I didn't feel that, you know, I was hearing high risk all the time, and obviously it lands on you, but it's not something that I ever believed. I knew that they would always arrive safe and sound, and when they did arrive, they were born perfect, and they didn't need any help breathing or anything like that.
Were they born during lockdown as well then?
They were.
What was it like?
Yeah, it was hard. It was so hard. Like, I'm not saying I have PTSD here or anything like that, but I will say that doing everything alone has a significant impact on you. You are in survival mode, and it is something that, you know, it's isolating. Like, who wants to feel isolated? You know, and going through such an experience, going through such a high risk experience, you know, they're saying high risk to you all the time. There's a worry that you're going to get to an appointment and you're not going to hear your baby's heartbeat. You're alone, you know, and I can hear my voice wobbling. Yeah, I had a really hard time. I had a hard time with restrictions. Yeah. They were the thing that got me, because when I had to be moved from the Lord's Hospital in Drogheda to the Rotunda, I don't know if you know anything about the Rotunda. It's one of the oldest maternity hospitals in Europe. The infrastructure is not great. I I'm very knowledgeable about this because I needed something to hone in on during that time. And I really researched like their HICWA reports and everything. Basically, they told me that I was a visitor to my kids when they were going to be born in the NICU in the Rotunda, and that I had to think of the other babies and not just my own, who were going to be at a risk because they didn't have the space. Now, they already didn't have the space. And then with COVID coming in and having the restrictions there, it meant that they were really impacted. And I'm not disputing that whatsoever, but I am not a visitor. I am the mother. I was told that I was having 15 minutes a day. And I really got into my research about kangaroo care and skin to skin contact and like having like premature babies. This is really important to be able to have that skin to skin contact. And if I'm a breastfeeder, like I love breastfeeding. Fed is best, obviously, but I really wanted to breastfeed when I knew it was going to be possible for me to do that. Because at first I thought, sure, I'd never be able to breastfeed 3 babies. A friend of mine, actually a very good friend of mine, encouraged me to breastfeed the babies, and I thought that wasn't something that I'd be able to do. But once I found out it was, I thought that opportunity was going to be taken from me then as well. And I fought tooth and nail. They were sick of me. The professor up there, I'm sure he heard my name weekly. The person that was overseeing the midwifery there, I was emailing her. It was even very hard to get a response back. Like, I know that they're busy, but this was my life. This was my life, and this was really important to me. And it was like the most important part of your starting life for the babies, you know. And I was not going to let anybody tell me that I was a visitor, and that anything that I knew to be important, I had to sacrifice because of their shortcomings. And I did have a lot of fight in me, you know, and I think that probably carried me through. When I'm saying that I'm looking after everybody's feelings and I pushed through, that was a definite coping mechanism for me during the COVID experience, having a pregnancy during that time. I definitely found that looking after everybody's feelings and having a fight was something that helped me get through the whole thing.
So having come through a pregnancy during COVID where there was an undertone of negativity and stress, I suppose, you then had your babies, delivered all 3 babies, and were further restricted then in your ability to bond with them and look after them.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of attention from the media and places as well when they were born? Because it's highly unusual. I don't know the statistics, but I'd imagine there's not that many triplets.
The statistics are very all over the place. You know, like if you were looking it up, you could get many different numbers, but like during my pregnancy it's not very, like, there's not an abundance of information online about triplet pregnancies. And one figure always stuck out in my head because it seems like, wow. And it's like 1 in 200 million is an identical triplet pregnancy. Oh. Yeah. And girls are that little bit rarer as well. So yeah, there was media attention. It was positive though. You know, it was all very positive. I ended up getting a great relationship with Brenda O'Donoghue, who was a journalist in RTE, and we did a series there called Like Family on RTE1, and it was brilliant to be a part of something like that. It's hard, I suppose. My life has changed so much since then. It's hard to even. It's like talking about someone else's life now at this stage. It's mad for me to be at the other side of the microphone for this, because it's nice when I'm thinking back at it actually as well, because it was such a different time. But I'm in a much better place now at the moment, you know. And the media side of things during then, I suppose, put on a bit of a front. You know, that was probably a bit of minding everybody else and minding everybody else's feelings and ego, and yeah, I did an awful lot of minding and portraying. I kind of feel like with something like this now, it's great that you can be yourself and it's not censored or anything like that. But I suppose during that time, that would have been my first experience of anything like that. And you want to put your best foot forward, you know, and you don't want to say the wrong thing. And like even down to the hospitals when we had interviews with RTA, like I don't like to look at myself or hear myself back or anything like that. And we were on the news outside the hospital. We had a camera crew from the news, RT1 or RT News. They were out recording us, and I was being so mindful and saying, like, aren't the hospital great? And, you know, and God, I'm cringing even thinking about it now. You know, I was just trying to make everybody else feel comfortable. But inside I was dying because I was leaving my babies every day. It was so hard. Sorry. Sorry. What are you doing to me? Oh.
Emma, can I just ask you about Casey?
Yeah,
because
of course.
she was, we think 10, if we
Yeah.
do, or 9.
The 6 years between
So
them.
she was an only child
Yeah.
for the first 10 years of her
Yeah.
life, to all of a sudden have these 3 little sisters
Yeah.
kind of thrust into her life. What was it like for her?
So she had the benefit of being an only child, and she was my little companion, my right hand woman. We did everything together, and she really, really, really wanted a sibling. Like, you know, no, she didn't want 3. And there was a bit of that, I suppose, when the girls came into the world, like a shock to the system, you know. But she was great. It was hard in lockdown because we had 3 new babies at home, and everything had to be like sterile nearly, you know, like coming from the NICU, coming home, and her environment had to change. And we moved home during that time as well, and she was doing home school because everything was online. Oh my God, it was just so much for her. Like, her world was completely shaken. But she is an amazing kid. She's an amazing kid. And everybody used to say to me, God, I bet she's like a little mammy, isn't she great? And I'd be saying, no. Because the truth was, I was so aware of how her world was going to change. I did not want that for her. I didn't want her to feel in that caretaking role. I didn't want her to feel that at all. And the girl's dad was still working through that time during COVID. So I would have been at home a lot with the kids on my own and Casey, and I would have really like mentally had to push through because I really didn't want her to have to feel that she had to be a helper. I wanted her to enjoy her sisters, you know. And it's difficult, I have to be honest with you, because there's 6 years between the 2 pregnancies. But yeah, there's 6 years between them, and they're at different stages, obviously. And like, I suppose Casey's fantasy of that would have been like to have a playmate and have a buddy, and that's not what she really got. You know, she got 3 high needs babies and a very tumultuous, I'd say, home life then in the mix of all that then as well. So she is brilliant, and she's the best big sister. I think that at the moment and the last couple of years, she's really come into the role of being a big sister. She's brilliant. I have every confidence in her to like watch them for me, and yeah, I am just so proud of the little woman she's becoming and the sister that she is. She's great.
Emma, you've always been a fantastic advocate for personal therapy.
Yeah.
Has your opinion of therapy, how has that changed from your experiences, you know, prior to having therapy and now afterwards? Was there some misconceptions about what therapy was like?
Yeah, definitely. I experienced therapy first in crisis. So it's not something that I actually would have really given much thought to what it is or what it isn't, but I just kind of maybe thought it was for other people. You know, I would always have considered myself to be a tough cookie. I've been through a lot. I have had a lot of life experience. I'm 37 now, and I think I probably had a lot of life experience before I even turned 30, before I even had the girls. And when I went to therapy first, as I mentioned, it was in crisis, and I discovered actually I was pregnant on the triplets during that time. I engaged with services with SOSAD, and I honestly don't think that I'd be sitting in this chair now if I hadn't continued on therapy. I had a marvellous therapist that I seen in SOSAD, and she did video therapy with me. Like, I'd sit in the car and do my therapy on the phone. And yeah, I suppose that helped me and I won't say an enormous amount. I am like a pusher for therapy. I am like, when anybody is talking to me, I love helping people. I'm a helper, I'm a fixer. And when somebody is telling me something, I'm like, therapy, go to therapy, you need counselling. but I would always say that it's something that you don't need to be in crisis to start engaging in. It's a supportive thing for your life. I'm still now in therapy. There was a time where I didn't go. After COVID, after my pregnancy and coming out of COVID and everything, like I was like high on life. Like I was really productive. It was probably the only time in my life I've been productive and proud of myself. And then stuff happened. I'm gonna say shit hit the fan, and I realized that I needed to go back to therapy, and I never stopped it since then. I did, I suppose you could call it crisis again, ending up in therapy, but I learned my lesson. It's supportive, and definitely my thoughts on therapy has changed from being like something that you need when something is going wrong to something that is supporting me being the version of myself that I want to be and turning up to be the mother that I want to be. Like my nervous system needs a place to be able to vent, nearly, you know, having somebody that's non-judgmental and who has actually got your best interest at heart at the end of the day is something that is invaluable to me. Like I couldn't be without it now at this stage, and I'm very lucky that I have connected with a brilliant therapist.
That's great to hear, such a positive.
Yeah, I love it.
story.
I love it. It's hard, don't get me wrong, like you know, the experts here, but it's not easy work, it's hard work. And I suppose if anybody is listening to this now and is thinking about starting therapy, it's daunting. I've had a lot of friends who have put off doing therapy for a long time because it is daunting, and then they start and they're like, God, why wasn't I doing this sooner? You know, like, oh God, I really regret not starting this sooner, but thankful that they're on the journey they're on, I suppose. Yeah.
Something else that you speak openly about is your neurodivergency, your ADHD diagnosis, and also some of the triplets are neurodiverse as well. Am I right?
The whole house is neurodivergent.
The whole house.
Our whole house is neurodivergent. And I don't want to speak on Casey's stuff, but she was having an awful lot of anxiety for school, and that's how we discovered her stuff. So we had an educational psychologist who was absolutely amazing, and that was the ball rolling for Casey. And the girls, so Callie, Quinn and Minnie are all neurodivergent. We're currently in the process of doing an assessment of need with Callie. She had the most challenges, I suppose, medically. It wasn't from the pregnancy or the birth or anything like that. It's developmental, and she had been very sick with her lungs. She always suffered respiratory problems, and it's only in the last couple of weeks actually that we're after getting to the diagnosis of it. So she's got a rare lung disease. It's something that's not curable, and it's chronic. It'll be like something that she has forever. So we're on management of that. And through all those things that she was going through, it was said to me to do an assessment of need for her. If anybody is listening to this and they don't know what I'm speaking about when I say assessment of need, that's the start of the ball rolling for any neurodivergent diagnosis. That's how you get your appointments with the multidisciplinary team. You see an OT, you see a speech and language therapist. Now I'm not the spokesperson for this, I don't know how everybody's process works, but that was what my experience was with my kids.
And was it a challenging experience, Emma? Because you do hear a lot about the challenges of getting these assessments and getting access to supports. I'm
having a different experience this time around with doing it for Callie. The first time doing it, the public health nurse was the person, I suppose, that flagged this initially. And she was excellent. My public health nurse out in Laytown was amazing. She was the one that kind of like suggested some stuff to me, like going to start in the early years in a Montessori setting so that they could develop better social skills and have kind of like people that were educators nearly, you know, like being able to help put systems and stuff like that and routine in place. So that was brilliant. And from there then we actually went privately through the system, because the appointments, anybody that's on a neurodivergent journey will tell you that the waiting lists are as long as your arm. So I was lucky that we did go through private. Now, it was still a long process, and you're driving around the country to go to these appointments. And I felt it was like a bit rushed, you know. But it was necessary, and I'm so grateful that we did have the experience that we had. And through that experience, Quinn and Minnie were diagnosed as having autism. So there's different levels of autism, which I didn't know until that time. So there's like level 1, level 2, and level 3. And my girls are both level 2. Now I'm saying level 2. I think that has changed probably since the girls are seeing their psychologist who done the final assessment. But he was saying there was like level 3 in there and all, and like I know that everybody sees their kids through rose tinted glasses, and I suppose one thing I will say about the connection that I have with my kids is that I don't look at them, all of them. I don't look at them and be like, it's news to me nearly, you know, when somebody says something about a symptom of ADHD or autism or anything like that. I don't look at them and go, autism, that's autistic, that's this. I look at my kids like they're my kids, and I turn up to serve their needs as they need them. And I'm not really thinking about autism or ADHD in the background, but God, you need it for the supports that they need, especially through the education system. But Quinn and Minnie, from having that assessment done, they're both actually in an autism class. So Minnie was recommended to go to an autism play school. It's called early intervention play school. Now there's none near us out my way in East Meath. She would have had to get the bus and travel out really far. But she was at top of the waiting list. But of course, like the waiting list, like everybody is dying to get on to the list because the services are so restrictive. There isn't enough of them. And she actually didn't get her place in the end, and she was told, well, it was said to me from the place that she was in the crash, that she was a danger to herself and others around her, and that she wasn't going to be able to attend for the recommended hours that she was recommended to go to for her autism. So yeah, I ended up taking, I was very lucky that I was self-employed, and I was able to work everything around her, and I was able to be there for her for that.
So was she removed from her school setting then?
She was in the early years, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she was. And then she, herself and Quinn are both in the autism class. I call it the autism class. People are calling it units. People call it autism class, ASD, special class or whatever. You'd be afraid nearly of saying stuff like the autism community is very helpful, but they're a very fierce community, and wording seems to be very important to them, where it's not to me. But again, I don't want to offend anybody, so that's why I'm kind of saying the array of all of the words. But yeah, they're in the autism class in school, and they are in such a wonderful setting. They go to school in Laytown, and the principal, they have like dedicated classes out there, so their school is amazing, and it's nearly like another school inside of a school. But even at that, like, you know, the need for special skills is, the people are dealing with a lot, you know, and kids like mine do fall through the cracks, because yes, that it was recommended that they do start in that, and they did, but it was nearly like having to have a fight with the SENO. SENO is a special education needs officer, and she's the one that determines whether you get the letter, and the letter determines whether you can apply. And yeah, if you don't have that, your kid's not getting the support they need, you know. And it's really difficult, because I think that I struggle a lot with like levels of autism, because I see other kids that are deeply affected by autism, and the families, and I always say that I have like the magic autism in my house. So I'd probably be absolutely taken out for saying that, but we've got a lot of love, a lot of love, a lot of affection, a lot of no boundaries, and very clever kids, like IQ through the roof, reading way above their levels. And yeah, if my child, I'm gonna go with Quinn specifically here, but if Quinn didn't start where she was, I definitely think that she would have fallen through the cracks, because Callie is in mainstream and she's the little lady going through the assessment and aid now, and she has already started off without the supports. You know, now the school is great, the teacher is brilliant, and there's an SNA in the class, but it's not her SNA. You know, so she needs support, and they're doing their best to give it to her. You know, but she needs to go through this long, lengthy process, and that's what it'll be. And I'm ready. I'm locked in. I'm ready
for another fight.
Yeah. But then myself, in speaking about neurodivergency, I learned an awful lot about myself from my kids and the stuff that they were going through. And I have always, the word that I want to say is suffered, but I kind of feel like I'm in conflict with myself even saying suffering. I've just been unaware, I suppose, about how my brain affects me, affects how I turn up to the day, what time of the month, especially how my brain is affected. And yeah, I've been to the doctor, and the doctor has said to me, go on antidepressants. Now, I was on antidepressants for a long time. I've had struggles with my mental health. But I think the struggles with my mental health have been down to the fact that I'm neurodivergent and had not been recognised or seen or supported. And I found my voice to say no to all that. And I did find my voice a while ago to say no. I have a bit of the I'll show yous inside of me, where a doctor, an older man doctor, told me years ago that I'd be on them tablets for the rest of my life because of my history. And I went, no, I don't agree. And the I'll show yous came in, and I was persevering and doing all the things to support myself, and it worked. And I suppose going back to the doctor, I got to a point and I was like, God, I just need help. And I went to the doctor and I said, you know, the doctors are always like, I don't want to be bashing my surgery here or whatever, but I actually have got great GPs and very supportive, but they're very limited in what they can do as well. So antidepressants, and I'm saying, like, I'm not good at taking medication. I don't think I've ever finished a course of antibiotics. I take one antibiotic, I'm like, I'm healed. And I just forget. Like, you know, I forget to take them. I can't take supplements. It's like, it's a thing. It's ADHD. But yeah, I suppose I got to a point where the doctor was saying to me, I'm going to have to send you to a psychiatrist because there's nothing else I can do for you. Like, you're not going to take the tablets. Like, you know, you're going to have to go to a psychiatrist. But kind of saying it to me like, there's nothing I can do for you. I'm going to have to send you here. Like, nearly like it was like, not a punishment, but kind of like, well, that's it kind of thing. So I went to see, my appointment eventually came around, and I went to see the psychologist up in Singleton House, and I had already been referred there with a letter of support from my counsellor, who in therapy had suggested to me before, like, do you think that you might have ADHD? That was like one of the first times I heard it. I'd been going to her for 2 years at that stage, and I said, no, I don't think so. And she said, oh, well, maybe have a look online at this. There's a checklist on ADHD Ireland, and have a look at it and see. Of course, I forgot because ADHD. But as things, like, my life was getting really much more difficult to cope with, and, you know, you look for answers and whatever, and I did go on to that, and I seen it. She had written a letter of support for me for the GP to send off, and the response I got back first initially from Singleton House was that we don't deal with that here. We don't deal with adult ADHD here. And that was kind of thrown out and put in the bin. And it was kind of like, okay, bye. So then when I was referred back on to the psychiatrist, because I wouldn't take the tablets, because I said, I'm not depressed. I'm not taking antidepressants, and I'm not depressed. You know, I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm depressed because I can't get help. So I ended up going to see the psychiatrist there, and I hadn't even sat down. And he said to me, it's a long time since you engaged in these services. And I thought to myself, when did I ever engage in these services? I can't remember that. I had actually taken an overdose years and years and years ago. I suppose life had gotten on top of me, and I was after being on a night out with friends, and my mum was always trying to push me out the door because I was a single mum then. At that stage I was a young mum, and my mum was always trying to get me to like get social and get out and have time with my friends and stuff like that. And I went out, and I remember being out and I was having a great time until I wasn't. And I remember looking around and saying, like, I'm putting this on for everybody else. Like, I'm putting on a face for everybody else. And I left the nightclub on my own, didn't tell anybody I was gone. And I just kind of, like, the drink definitely made me feel a bit more sorry for myself. I'd never have done that. And when I've spoken about this before, I have said this and I'll say it again. I would never have done that sober. You know, I would never have gotten to that point. But that impulsivity of doing that, you know. And I forgot all about it until he brought it up with me. And I'm in there addressing this part of my mental health now, and he brought that up with me, and I was like, wow, like I was actually even still masking, I suppose, then at that stage. And so I said, look, I was referred to here before for ADHD. Cut me off completely straight away. Dismissive. We don't deal with that here. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I got your letter back. You know, you don't deal with it here. And then he was kind of like, what are you here for? And I said, well, maybe it's not that. I said, maybe it's not ADHD. Maybe it's something else. So he said, fair enough. And yeah, we sat down, and I have to say, I had a great appointment. We had a great long chat, and I suppose he got the full range of me in there. I had a hyper focus at that stage as well, and when I asked him, did he know about it? Because he was obviously asking me leading questions, and I didn't know that at the time. But when he did ask me about something, and I said, well, he probably never heard of this, and he said, yeah, I actually have. Well, that was it. I was gone. I was like, and did you know this? And did you know that? And did you know that? And it was all about the Chega silence. I'm not going to get into it. But anyway, by the end of that appointment, he said to me, I can't say to you, I can't like prescribe you medication, but when you start taking medication, your life will change. He said, it's going to change your life. He said, go and get a comprehensive report done. And he said, I can't do it for you, but I can prescribe you the medication. And I'm going to, like, he got on straight away onto the computer, and he said, I've never done this before. I've never like said this to a GP. And I just remember the feeling of wow, like relief when I left. I couldn't believe it. You'd swear I was after winning the lotto or something. Like, I was really not expecting that. And I got out and I was on the phone to my mum, and you know, wow, I have to get this report done. And do you think I've gotten that report done? No, because it's really expensive to have that done. And I am financially responsible for my 4 kids. I'm not getting any help. I am supporting my kids independently. There's nobody coming in to save me, and that's where the money goes. And that's the reason why I haven't had the report. I have been told that I have ADHD. There could be something else along the line in there as well, but I'll know when I get through the adult services. So I am actually currently going to get the report done through the HSE, praise Jesus, and that is with the mental health services in Monaghan. It's a new thing, they have adult services. So go to your GP. If you listen to this now and you think there isn't help for you, there is. Ask them to send you on. They can do it. You know, we're going to all be waiting a long time, but
it's really good to know.
We can do it.
And if you could meet your younger self now, maybe yourself before you became a mum, what do you think that you would like to say to her?
It's difficult, isn't it, to think of yourself? Like, I feel like I've had a million lifetimes. And I feel like I've always been a mother. So it's hard for me to think about not being a mum. But I suppose my younger self would need to know that you are enough. Everything that you're doing is enough. It's your best ability. You're doing everything that you can with the tools that you have. Yeah, I think I'm going to have a tear in my eye, because it's just crazy to think that I never thought that I would have the life that I have. I never thought that I'd be in the position that I'm in. But actually definitely something that I would say to my younger self is that stand up for yourself, and stand up for your own feelings. Put yourself first. There's no shame in putting yourself first. Yeah, and it's actually essential. You need to do that. You cannot support yourself, your kids, your family, your partner, anybody else if you can't have something for yourself. If you have to start with you. So I'd tell my younger self to start with you and be easy on yourself.
And what would you say, Emma, to other mums who might be listening who maybe are struggling with solo parenting or raising neurodivergent children or just feeling overwhelmed? And because motherhood can be so lonely, can't it? Yeah.
Find your tribe. I would say that. It hasn't been easy to find my tribe, and they come from all manner of different places who I never thought. That some friends that I had forever that I am no longer friends with, and then there's some people that have always been by my side, and then there's friends from here, there and everywhere and new, and that are after coming from places I wouldn't even have thought of. So find your tribe. Like, it takes a village, you know that saying, it takes a village? Like, that's true. And like, we're not supposed to do this alone. We're not. And nobody wants to do it alone. If you're in a position like I am, like, I don't want to be alone, but I had to for the greater good, we'll say. And even if you're in a relationship and you're in a partnership, find your tribe. Find your tribe. Don't, you need to be able to lean on other people. I think women are great. Women are brilliant supporters of each other as well. And yeah, we're not supposed to do this alone. From the animal kingdom up, we're really not. Like, we're supposed to rear our kids all together. And it's great. When you do find that support system, it's, I'd be lost without mine. Lost. And yeah, I really would. I've gone through some of the most difficult times in my life, knowing that I've got the full support of my tribe. And thank you if you're listening, which I'm sure you're our tribe. Yeah, thanks a million.
So it's safe to say you've had quite a chaotic life to date, but you've somehow managed to find peace with yourself within that.
Yeah.
How have you overcome the chaos, I suppose, to get to that point?
I definitely haven't overcome. Every day is chaos. Neurodivergency is a chaos in itself. So every day is a challenge. And I suppose like starting like grounding yourself is something that I feel like really supports me. I think that to get your own peace, find something that you're passionate about outside of like your kids or your job. I'm terrible. I was terrible, I should say, at that. My joy came from being productive and from being helpful and being somebody that was important, I suppose, in work or in friendship or whatever. But what I find now is sitting down in the mornings before everybody else gets up. So getting a bit of peace to start the day, because you just know that everything is going to be crazy. Having a coffee in peace and writing gratitude, even in the most traumatic of times, going through some of the most difficult times of my life, finding a way to be thankful for what you have is something that really grounds you back down into the here and now. Because I know that, you know, the saying everybody always has it, or not everybody, but other people have it worse off than you. Like my granddad would say something to me like, oh, Johnny down the road has no leg, like you could have it, you know. And he'd say, yeah, it's terrible for Johnny, but it's actually terrible for me as well, what I'm going through personally. So I have to make sure that I am sitting down with myself and being thankful for what I have. And then that is the very basic thing that I'd say to start off with. I will say that I found great peace in the law of attraction. I know I was never a woo-woo person, but I found a podcast that I was listening to and it changed my life. And I wouldn't say that I'm like big, like into it. Like I do. From that, I started doing a book club, self-help books. And that has been something that really helps me as well. But getting a bit of reading, getting a bit of gratitude. I only would have known the gratitude practices from doing the law of attraction stuff. But yeah, that's something that I found that I'm really interested in, and it's something that really keeps me going and keeps me in peace.
You've mentioned today, Emma, how you put other people's needs first a lot of the time and look after other people and try to fix people and rescue people. So I suppose the question that we ask everybody who comes on the podcast is, how do you find a way to mind yourself?
The only thing I do for myself is dancing. I love it. Throughout my whole childhood, I've always loved to dance. And it's something that I actually didn't even feel that I was probably worthy of. I've tried to go back to it over the years, and I felt too insecure, and like I couldn't even get enjoyment out of that. And now I go dancing every Thursday, and it is my lifeline. I thought that at this stage of my life I was done with making friends. I thought, as I said about my tribe, like I have my tribe, and it's just been so amazing to make friends as an adult. With like-minded people, and the movement of your body, listening to music, like I love it. I just couldn't be without it. I love dancing. I just love it so much. It's my favourite day of the week, Thursdays.
Amazing. Emma, thank you so much for coming on to
Thanks
the podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
That is it for today's episode of Mind Yourself. If something in this conversation has resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it, because these are the conversations that matter. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the podcast, a quick rating or review really helps us to reach more people. So until next time, mind yourself.